All the net new jobs over the past 25 years, in 17 economies now that we've measured, have come from firms less than 5 years old. Let me tell you that again. All the net new jobs have come from firms less than 5 years old. What that means is that all of us have been out there talking about small and medium enterprises in a rather jaded way for 25 or 30 years, and what we really needed to be concentrating on was the age of the firm, not the size of the firm. When firms are younger, that's when they're dynamic, that's when they're hiring people. When they're older, and there are many of us that sit on boards, our job is to make them more profitable, which means that, frankly, we need to do it with fewer people. And so the work that you're doing today, at the risk of sounding too evangelical in this wonderful cathedral, is indeed extraordinary, much more important than any of you realize walking in this room. You are not only the sole future job creators, but you are the individuals that will help us fuel that organic process of constantly ferreting out better ways of doing things. And your mission when you go out of here, when I bring you news from around the world, is you've got to go find more people. You've got to go find more people in your own country who can bring them into a startup scene, have them feel and touch and see what it's like. Not just to be at an event like this, but a startup weekend or some other kind of startup type activity. So let me, in some respects, I know that many of you already understand this message. But let me tell you a couple of very, very quick observations, having heard all of these things that we're picking up from similar activity around the world. And there are experts in the room who teach some of these. But here's some early observations I want to emphasize. We are now conducting what we call the science of startups. We are now looking at how do you collect data on working out how it's much easier for these investors to determine how do I figure out a way that more of them come to us will succeed. I can give you a long list, but I'm going to pick 4 today in our short time that I talk to you. The first is, and perhaps the most important one is, that it's all about teams. You saw that today. It's all about teams. And teams are vitally important because it's become a social experience. Teams are vitally important because it's no longer about looking at that one entrepreneur and saying, now what makes you qualified to do this? I'm an investor too. I want to see the collection of people behind that, and I want to know whether or not I've got a disruptive innovator together with someone with unique knowledge of the industry who's going to turn that disruptive idea into an innovation. Someone with some knowledge of how to do that. Second thing, networks. We all know networks are important. They've become exponentially important because networks are your path to finding the right mentor. And networks are your path to finding that special knowledge. In fact, it's that constant conversation that's going to be vital to your success in the future. Thirdly, it's about iteration. And for those who, maybe that word is hard to translate, it's about the repetitive process of validating the idea, collecting data, absorbing that data into the process, and going back out to your customers. We all sometimes call it, and people often call it continuous innovation, but they also talk about building the aeroplane in the air. You're out there developing the company. At the very moment, you're collecting the data, you're bringing it in, you're changing the idea. But the most important part of that is that what we're seeing for the successful high-growth firms is the ones that waited as long as possible before actually going out into the marketplace. They've worked on that formula time and time and time again until the formula is absolutely right. They can't think of anything else they can do to change it because they've talked so much with every potential person who may be a suitable customer for their product or service. And so this idea of this validation and constant repetitive analysis of what you're doing, so before you get to the point that you have to stand in front of these terrifying 4 champions here, you really have it down. And I think several of them tonight, I hope you agree, clearly have been in the marketplace testing their idea and had a clean-cut, clear answer to each and every one of their questions. And they should be applauded for that. so as I said, I get to end on a couple of controversial notes. As I said, if you work for an organization that doesn't have customers, just constituents, no one can stop writing me checks, no one can fire me. So here's a couple of things I'll say that caution, we're learning caution. First thing is to be careful, because these entrepreneurs are not all modern day Mozarts. They're also not all kids in garage. Who wants for the special prize of a pin to learn the average age of a US-born entrepreneur?
Can anybody guess the average age of a US-born entrepreneur? Anybody? 80.
80.
To ruin the statistics.
17.
52.
52.
46. 21, 45,
24,
31, 25.
It's higher. 24.
Here you are. You know what? You already got one.
Yeah.
It's my age.
You can give it to the best winner. Whoa. Okay.
Okay.
39 years old is the average age of a US-born entrepreneur. You know why? Because obviously they're meeting it out with the team. The team's always going to have an older and a younger person. So you've got to be careful about this age thing. And the last thing, as Digby and I discussed, we conclude, is I want to ask you for your comments on the following statement. It's entrepreneurs that create venture capital. It's not venture capital that creates entrepreneurs. Why did I end on that? Because I want to end on the fact that we have to be careful. In our work of studying thousands of high-growth startups, we've concluded that invariably, more often than not, money was causing more problems, that we needed to see a much more lean approach to it. We needed to see much more bootstrapping. We needed to see more individuals investing their own investment in this. And it's not that you don't need money, but the question is what kind of money do you need and when do you need the money? And invariably, startup teams don't ever ask themselves that question often enough. It's become a badge of honor that I got my funding. It's a badge of honor that I won the prize. It's all about I got my money. The money is a vote of confidence for some excellent people. But the question is, did it really help the growth of your firm? So I want to thank you. Digby and I are going to come down here and we're going to have a couple of comments from you on that question about how important is money. And with that, we'll come down here and we'll ask you that right now.